Good morning, everybody online, joining us for the third public session of the annual stakeholder meeting of the EMA 3Rs Working Party. I'm Sonja Beken, the chair of 3Rs Working Party, and with me today is my vice chair, Sarah, who I will give the floor to also give you a warm welcome. Thank you. Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Sonja. So a very warm welcome also from my side to our today's meeting. We are quite eager to hear your thoughts on our work plan and perhaps get some new ideas as well. And we look forward to this day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So as usual, I will take you through the achievements of the EMA 3Rs Working Party today and give you some insights on the new work plan. And with this, I would like to start this presentation. So on top of the presentation on achievements and the work plan, we will again query, of course, your thoughts through a Slido. You are used to having this format for querying your thoughts. And today we will also have some extra questions pertaining to the latest action of our working party. So let's start with the achievements and where we are today. So again, a bit of a recap of the engagement of the EMA towards the 3Rs, and we are expanding our timeline clearly. So if we look, we see that the EMA started with the JAC 3Rs and its activities around 3Rs uptake for regulatory testing in 2010. And we are now here in 2025 with a 3Rs Working Party that started working in 22 and that has now already expanded its members with 2 new members that joined this year, Pieter van Meer and Karen Ekelund-Petersen, and very warm welcome to them. And their help is already welcomed in achieving our work plan actions. So we have also published a new 3-year work plan for the non-clinical domain, which also encompasses 3Rs Working Party, and which you can find by scanning this QR code on the excerpt of the work plan. So just a short overview on the meetings that we had this year. You can see that since the last stakeholder meeting in 24, we had 4 meetings of 3Rs Working Party, of which 1 in the presence of observers, coming to today's annual stakeholder meeting in the presence of our observers, and we will have another 3 meetings in 2025. So I will take you now through different actions and achievements. It is a bit of a roadmap of getting there. And I'll start by the first topic on the list, which is the promotion of regulatory integration of 3Rs compliant methods. And in that context, I am very proud to announce that our 2 reflection papers on the current regulatory testing requirements for medicinal products of human and veterinary use and opportunities for implementation of 3Rs have been published and are now here for public consultation until the 3rd of June 2025. So you are very much welcomed to read through this inventory of tests and 3Rs opportunities and give your thoughts and suggestions for additions, change, or modifications. So just to give you an idea, what this inventory does is to highlight the flexibility that is already present in our guidelines with regards to 3Rs implementations. And you can see that the same structure is maintained throughout both reflection papers. Namely, you have a column with the topic, so the type of testing requirement, the regulatory provision, so the EMA, ICH, or pharmacopoeial monograph that it pertains to, the exact animal testing requirements that are included, the implemented 3Rs opportunities at this point in time, and the newly identified opportunities for 3Rs implementation that will necessitate further work. And you can see that we have such a table for different working parties involved, non-clinical, quality, but also, for instance, biosimilar medicinal products working party. So going now further to the promotion and support of NAM qualification. And in that context, we have published a concept paper on the revision of the guideline on the principles of regulatory acceptance of 3Rs testing approaches. And with this revision, we want to integrate 3Rs related terminology in the body of the guideline. And we also want to draft annexes which will contain regulatory acceptance criteria for microphysiological systems or organ-on-chip models for specific contexts of use that will be applied in the pharmaceutical area. So following the publication of this concept paper, we received broad comments. We got more than 180 comments from 20 different interested parties, which broadly support the revision, but also provide proposals for updates of the body of the guideline text, a lot of suggestions for inclusion of terminologies, and also a request to broaden the scope for the annexes from microphysiological systems to all complex in vitro models. The revision currently is ongoing. We have a steering group for this drafting process that has been set up because it's a complex revision with revision of the body of the text and the drafting of annexes. So hence a steering group that oversees all this work. And we have set up a drafting subgroup for terminology that already started working. And we have members also for the first annex work on the cardiac complex in vitro models that will start imminently. Moving further to fostering stakeholder interactions. So this is our third stakeholder meeting, and you can find the meeting reports for the first and the second one held in 23 and 24 respectively. We also, of course, had interactive Slidos, and when we see the evolution of the word cloud, we see that we started from acceptance and validation in the heart of the word cloud to regulatory acceptance. And when we queried you over the 2 years on what were the most important topics 3R's Working Party should concentrate on, we can see that development of guidance on acceptance criteria and qualification criteria for NAMs is still on top of the list. And I'm very curious to see today's outcome as well. So moving to fostering international regulatory collaboration, we set up an international medicines regulators working group on 3Rs, which kicked off in January of 24. And the terms of reference with agreements on specific actions have been published and accepted by the management of the different agencies involved. And you can see here on the print screen of the terms of reference that we have involvement of EMA, PMDA in Japan, Swissmedic, Australian TGA, Health Canada, and the US Food and Drug Administration. And when you look further in the terms of reference, you can see that the intention of the group is really to foster a consistent global approach across regulatory jurisdictions to achieve internationally harmonized 3Rs recommendations and assist in the implementation of alternative approaches for the testing of human and veterinary medicinal products wherever possible. And clearly, we are not only looking at in vitro alternative approaches, but also in chemical, in silico, reduced and refined in vivo tests, weight of evidence approaches, etc. And this is really a non-exhaustive list to not impair technological process. Further on, we contributed to early dialogue via the 3Rs Innovation Task Force briefing meetings, and we could see that a retrospective analysis showed that between 2019 and 23, 45 of the 340-something ITF briefing meeting requests were on 3Rs topics. And looking a bit closer, in the recently published EU Horizon Scanning Report on New Approach Methodologies, you can see that the bulk of the briefing meeting requests on 3Rs pertain to alternative replacement approaches. And if we look even more closely to the type of stakeholders that submitted these ITF briefing meeting requests, we can see that largely all major stakeholders are involved in the exercise. Now, Clearly, there were different purposes for which these alternative approaches were submitted, with on top of the list the context of testing pharmaceuticals for their safety and their toxicity, followed by the use in drug discovery and efficacy. If we look even more closer to the type of organ systems that were mimicked in the tissue-specific NAMs, or the type of NAMs that were submitted, we can see that on top of the list, of course, the in vitro tools could be found with 2D and 3D organ-on-chip models on top of the list, but also followed closely by in silico modeling, molecular assays, etc. In the organ space, you could see that on top of the list we had liver, brain, and heart. So moving on to the follow-up of the application of 3Rs in quality control and batch release testing, we had the setup of the batch release testing operational expert group in 23 that started working immediately. This group is composed of EU network and 3Rs working party experts on quality control and batch release testing and 3Rs. And they engaged into a 3Rs review of quality control and batch release testing for centrally authorized veterinary medicinal products, where for the analyzed products, they drafted recommendations on 3Rs that were forwarded to the Committee for Veterinary Medicinal Products, and letters are being sent to the marketing authorization holders that are concerned by the recommendations. Further work concentrates now on centrally authorized human medicinal products. Further on, the focus on the alternatives to the use of non-human primates. The drafting group is now finalizing its first draft of the reflection paper. A consultation will be expected for fourth quarter of 25. The focus of the reflection paper will be on leveraging existing flexibility in the guidelines and also identifying at the same time opportunities for 3Rs implementation based on interactions with interested parties and ongoing initiatives. The organization of training. In this context, we have, of course, the work of our non-clinical and NAMS European Specialized Expert Community, or ESEC, that is used for information sharing and interactions between non-clinical and NAM experts from the regulatory network, but also from academic centers. And all work that is being done consists of regular webinars and is also integrated in the EU Network Training Center catalog. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see an overview of the type of webinars that have been organized over the past months and that cover diverse fields, going from basic regulatory requirements and opportunities for 3Rs up to qualification aspects of NAMs, cardiotoxicity testing, and NAMs for skin sensitization. And further webinars will be organized this year as well. Specific veterinary topics that I would like to highlight are the contributions of the 3Rs Working Party to the revision by the Veterinary Safety Working Party of the Guideline on User Safety for Pharmaceutical Veterinary Medicinal Products, and the Guideline on User Safety of Topically Administered Veterinary Medicines. Focus is on the inclusion of OECD in vitro methods for local tolerance testing, the reference to the veterinary medicinal products reflection paper that contains all the opportunities for 3Rs implementation, additional guidance on significant user exposure, and the inclusion of a tiered approach for the derivation of toxicity reference values to potentially avoid in vivo testing for dermal toxicity. Moreover, we are also contributed to a specific working group from the Committee on Veterinary Medicinal Products and CMDV that explores possibility to make the adherence to 3Rs principle during authorization processes more transparent. So this is a little bit of an overview of what we have been working on, and I would like now to take you through the actions that are included in our new work plan. So typically, our work plan is organized in strategic goals and tactical goals, and I'll now give you a highlight of the strategic goals. You will see that we have tiled colored and black colored text, and this really pertains to the actions that are joined to the 3Rs Working Party and the non-clinical working party, as we are a non-clinical domain work plan, and the specific actions that are pertaining to 3R's working party only. So starting from the joint actions, the first one is the assurance that the breadth and the depth of expertise of members is future-proof in relation to the new emerging safety issues and therapeutic modalities, as well as the emerging technologies with regards to 3Rs. And that's really an ongoing exercise. The development of guidance, including the identification of future ICH topics to address new demands in the 3R space, as well as in the non-clinical space. And we have a new point related to the use of artificial intelligence to actively track the developments in that space and the use of the available data in relation to non-clinical assessment and the 3Rs, and to support the integration of such methods in appropriate guidance and in practice when appropriate. Further on, we will continue our actions related to the search for alternatives to the use of non-human primates. We will further develop the strategic role of this 3Rs working party in the field of 3Rs and strengthen the cooperation between European stakeholders and international partners in the field. We'll promote the regulatory integration of 3Rs compliant methods and support and promote the qualification of non-animal methods by, for instance, establishing acceptance criteria for specific contexts of use, and of course actively participate in the qualification procedures that will come in through scientific advice working party. Moving now to the tactical goals, and they are split in different headings. Let's start with the guidelines and the reflection papers. The first pertains to the continuation of the work on the reflection paper on the alternatives to the use of non-human primates, with a public consultation expected this year. We are eagerly continuing our revision of the guideline on the principles of regulatory acceptance of 3Rs testing approaches and hoping for a quick first draft of the core text of the guideline, including the new glossary and terminologies, and with a second revision pertaining to the drafting of the annexes in 27. And then we'll continue our revision of our reflection papers, for which the consultation is now ongoing. Moving to trainings, we'll develop, update and maintain the training curriculum with specific emphasis on 3Rs, linking, of course, to the activities of the European specialized expert community. With regards to communication and stakeholders, we'll support the organization of a preclinical assessor meeting with a view on 3Rs topics, but also the organization of our annual stakeholder meetings of the 3Rs working party. Continue our cooperation with the European Commission and EU agencies, and of course our new cooperation on the international level with the International Medicines Regulators Working Group on 3Rs. On a multidisciplinary level, we'll continue our collaboration with the veterinary field for 3Rs and with the methodology area, specifically for modeling and simulation, which are key in the integration of novel 3Rs testing approaches. And now it is time to hear from you. You've heard from me and the overview of everything that we have been achieving this year and what our future plans are. And now in the Slido, we will really like to query your thoughts on different aspects. Thanks a lot already for your attention. So you can join the Slido by scanning this QR code, and you have the passcode as well noted on the slide. And I will now give the floor to my colleague who will manage the Slido session.
Thanks, Sonia. Do you want to maybe run through the questions? Have you got those on your slide?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. So while you access the Slido, I'll take you to the slides, to the questions, sorry, quickly. So we have a bunch of questions, but the first one is an easy one. So we would like to know, all of you who are there in the air, where you're from. Which of the areas best describes your interest or professional activity in the area of 3Rs? And you can choose one. If none of them applies, then you can add your affiliation in a free text. Question 3 is a word cloud again. And the question is simple. What do you think is the most important aspect when thinking about the 3 Rs in regulatory testing and drug development? Question 4 pertains to the achievements of 3 Rs Working Party. And we would like to know, looking at the goals of EMA 3 Rs Working Party that are listed there, in what areas do you think the Working Party has made significant progress to date? And you could rank the different topics that are on the slide and which also pertain to the overview that you just heard. Question 5 is then related to the priorities. You have heard about the areas that are identified in our new work plan for 25-27. And where do you believe that the Working Party should concentrate additional efforts in 25 and beyond? And you can easily select multiple options. Question 6 pertains to the work of the International Medicines Regulators Working Group on 3 Rs. So we have led the establishment of this group, and which of the following aspects do you think are the most important to bring to this forum? And you can rank again the different aspects which go from acceptance criteria for NAMs over quality control, phasing out of obsolete tests, developing a specific 3 Rs position that can be shared with the International Coalition of Medicines Regulatory Authorities, up to training and sharing of information. Question 7 is an important question also close to our heart. It's related to the mechanism of interaction with the EMA. We provide a number of supports for developers of 3 Rs compliant methods and mechanisms for regulatory interaction. And we would really like to know which of the following opportunities are you aware of. And you see all the different interaction possibilities listed below, and you can select multiple options. A follow-up question, 8, 9, 10, and 11, relates to whether you or your organization have used these methods of interaction in the past. If you have done so, please specify. Or do you or your organization plan to use any of these in the future? If yes, which one? Now, no worries. You don't have to fill everything quickly. The Slido will remain open for the next 2 weeks or so, and you will have ample time to also continue filling this in. But your input will be very much valued and will be taken into consideration for the further activities where we have to concentrate with our 3 Rs Working Party. So with that, thank you very much. And now we can actually look at the Slido. Thanks.
Okay. I will share some of the results. As Sonia mentioned, we'll keep this Slido open, and we do really value the input that we receive from this. We'll summarize it in a meeting report, which we'll put on the event page where this broadcast is being shown. And you'll see as we go on through the day that we have in the past taken this feedback into account in developing our work plan. So it's really important, and we encourage you to engage with the Slido and to provide your feedback. So these are the preliminary results, I guess, and we'll see what's coming in for the moment. So the first question, as Sonia mentioned, was just to get a feel of the participants that we have online, and we can see that we have regulatory, animal welfare organisations, industry, commission and EU agencies. Let's see who the others are, some consultants, so good to have you joining. The next question that we had is the word cloud. So what do you think is the most important aspect when thinking about the 3 Rs in regulatory testing and drug development? So confidence in new approach methodologies, I assume, regulatory acceptance of those methodologies, validation, global alignment, qualification. So a lot of the things that we expect to see here. Communication with method developers is a very important one as well. So yeah, this is changing all the time. Thank you for those responses. So this is some of the goals included in the work plan. So asking where you think we've made significant progress to date. The update to the guidelines and guidance documents is recognised there. So as Sonia mentioned, the revision of the reflection papers providing 3 hours opportunities. I can scroll down and see what's further down. So support to the Innovation Task Force, batch release testing. So yeah, good to see that there is support for all of the progress that we've been making. The next one, so again, very important here, looking at what you think we should prioritise and the areas that we should focus on in our work plan. And a lot of you saying support the qualification of new approach methodologies and establishing acceptance criteria. So again, it's really good to see support for the activities that we have ongoing and the things that we are planning to focus on in the work plan. And yeah, second in line there is the international collaboration. So we are very happy to have started the work with the international working group. And if we scroll down, again, the batch release features, the cooperation with the Commission and the agencies. So we have a session later on today on the Commission roadmap towards phasing out of animal testing. So that's an important activity for us as well. So this is a question on the international working group and the important topics to bring to that forum. So again, a kind of a harmonisation and agreement on acceptance criteria for new approach methodologies. Support for phasing out of obsolete tests, very important in a global context. Sharing of information, training and competence building. So all things that we've included in the terms of reference for that group. And again, you'll hear more about that in the international session later on. Next one. As Sonia mentioned, this is something that we are trying to promote as much as possible. So the mechanisms of interaction between, for example, method developers and regulators. So good to know that you're aware of the Innovation Task Force and the opportunity to interact with us through that. Scientific advice is the next one down. The qualification procedure, and then maybe less seem to be aware of the voluntary submission of data procedure. And again, we'll talk a bit more about that as well. And the portfolio and technology meetings we'll also discuss in the mechanisms of interaction session. So we just wanted to know whether the stakeholders joining today had used any of these mechanisms in the past. So actually a very high percentage, so that's good to see. 33%, but again, more of you will have the opportunity to hear some more. We see scientific advice is probably the biggest one there, so that's maybe indicative of our industry participants online. ITF and PTM, so nice to see all of those featured. And that was the last question.
So again, reiterating, you are still invited to continue to complete the Slido. Having a lot of responses will help us in fine-tuning our work, in fine-tuning our priorities. So please keep on filling this in and also transmitting it to your colleagues, that we can have a broad input from all our interested parties. And with this, I would like to conclude our public session. I thank you a lot for joining, and I'm inviting you already now for next year, where we'll again update on what we have been doing over the new year based on your priorities forwarded to us as well. Thanks a lot.
So yeah, just to say, we'll keep the Slido open. You can add answers via the QR code. The recording of this public session will be available on the same webpage where the broadcast was available. And we'll also follow up this public session with a report where we summarise the findings from the Slido.